Hello everyone, thanks for joining me on this one, and I hope you have a cup of coffee ready because we're going to go into the detail again, and we're going to run through the waterfront locations with regards to comms and marketing. There'll be a bunch of insights. I'll try to barrel through this one a little quicker than the last one, so it's not a whole hour of your time. So let's get straight into it. First of all, we're going to look at the website, and because that's a good yardstick, if we get more people on the website, then we get more people looking at the products on the landing pages, purchasing, passes or, rentals, etc., etc. So in 2020, there was 174,300-ish, and then in 2021, 190, and then we see in 2022 that we had about 191,686 users. So essentially, it was the same. Interestingly, a lot of it was in the latter part in July, August, and September. So like a bulk of the users were registered then. So sunshine equals people interested in the business. We already knew that. Okay, so let's look at acquisition then. How do we get people to come to the business to spend money? So let's have a look then at what was most useful for us. So our top channels then, on the left hand side you see 2021, and on the right hand side you can see 2022. And then similar to last year you had 69% organic, and then this year we had 64%, so it's just down 5. We had direct, so that were people knowing that DCK exists, and they just pop that into their browser and go straight through. That was up 22%. And then we had referral, which was down 4%, approximately the same there. And then social made a big leap of 21%, with people coming from social onto the website. And then a big jump this year then was a 498% for email, which is significant. It was incredible. Okay, so let me just run through referral real quick. I went inside of referral, and it turns out that the majority of the referrals are actually from Flybook, i.e. our own staff, sorting things like that out. And then another thing was Deep Cove Kayak, referencing Deep Cove Kayak. So there's a bit of a glitch. So when I run those numbers through, referral actually ended up being not in third, but somewhere about just under email in terms of effectiveness with regards to acquisition of our customers. Okay, cool. Moving on. Now we're going to look at socials. That was third on the list. So direct I'm going to leave alone because people just know that it exists and they go straight to the website. Organic, which was the first one, I'll have more to say about that later, but let's go through the list from third down to begin with. And so if you look at 2021 compared to 2022, it does paint, you could say, a rather bleak picture if you look at it, but we'll explain why it's not so bleak later. So if you look at likes and reactions, down about a third, and then we have comments, half the number of comments in 2022 over 2021, and then we were down almost a third in shares. We were down almost 40% in link clicks, but we were up 1.5% in new followers. And with regards to unfollowers, we had less than 23%, 0.6, a decrease in unfollowers, which is obviously a good thing. I think one of the main reasons the link clicks were down and stuff like that is that this year we decided to, for example, remove, graphics that had a call to action on them, and we were like, okay, well, let's stop doing CTAs in graphical form. And so I think that's what the link click 40% hit is in. But essentially, all in all, then, if we have a look at this, paid reach is down 13%. There was only a small amount of paid reach anyway from 21 to 22, so I'll explain that. So it was only 0.6 in general from the reach on Facebook, and down 11% on Instagram. So total then 311,988 in 21, and then 301,714. That's the amount of people that reached organically on Meta between 1 year and the other. So we were just down 10,000 from last year. Okay, cool. Let's move on then. So inside of socials, we have ad spend. So I'm going to just clear this one up real quick because it isn't that much. So we had 1,067 and in ads. And so we focused on rental fleet sale, season pass, gift cards, and triple pass. Now you might be saying, okay, hang on a second, rental fleet sale, that's got nothing to do with Deep Cove Kayak. That is Coast Outdoors, and you should attribute that ad spend to Coast Outdoors. I'd say you're probably right. But either way, we ran it on the Deep Cove Kayak Instagram, Facebook page. So here's the data. It's just easier for me to show you it on this, and we're all the same company anyway, I guess. But okay, moving on. So spent then. So we had on the fleet sale $518 we spent on that. Season pass 124. Triple passes was 300, and the gift card just 76. When the rubber hits the road, if you remember from the last video, we like link clicks. Link clicks go to landing pages, money. Yep. Very fun. Okay, 644 clicks through to us, 317 on the season pass, 757 on the triple pass, and that's quite good considering there was only 300 spent on it. And then 76 for the gift card. So the cost per click then, I'll just quickly put that in there so you can see the season pass, triple pass, and gift card. They're about the same. And then you'd be like, okay, well, what's wrong with the rental fleet sale? Well, this one here sucked. It was really bad. And this one here is the same post, but it was done in video form. So Bob stood in and he said, hey, we're giving this stuff away. That one was approximately the same cost per click as the other three. But we just utilized video to effectively do the same thing. Okay, great. Moving on. Let's talk about organic socials then. This is the order of the top 10 or /11 highest hitting posts and content that we had with regards to likes and reactions on our Facebook and Instagram page. And I'm mentioning this to see if we can glean any ideas going forward or if we should change things. Now, what we found from this is that 63%, almost 2/3 is video. If you saw the last video, you'll notice the same trend happening there. 99% of it was organic, so there's only one image there that wasn't, a beautiful winter scene. That was just a stock image. That's what I mean by that. The rest of it, we took the images or we found the image from a photo book. Anyway, so and then none of them are stories. In fact, the stories did the least well compared to, like, say, posts or reels or videos that were posted on, say, Facebook or Instagram and whatnot. That's something or nothing. I will throw it out there anyway. Okay, so link clicks. Remember, if we have people clicking on links, it means that they finally left the metaverse, or actually not Meta, they finally left Meta and then they're on the landing pages and they're getting ready to buy something. That's important, right? So to do that, most of the 100% of them were posts. When it comes to people leaving the platform and going on a landing page, 100% of them on Facebook, and 100% of them were not stories. So Facebook tended to be better when it comes to link clicks and getting people on the landing page and purchasing stuff. And that's sort of, if you think about it, on Facebook you can put a URL in, so it naturally is easier to click stuff on that platform compared to Instagram, where you've got to, go to the link in the bio and stuff. So probably shouldn't be too surprised by that statistic. So this is noteworthy then. So organically, to get over 4,300, which is the number of Instagram followers, only 2 posts reached more than our follower number, and that was the orca whales on the left there, and that beautiful video that Anatolia edited of Seth doing his rolls. Now, I mention this because we're talking about organic, and we're talking about, trying to have impact and let people know that we exist. Because if you, comparatively speaking, Meta in 1 year, we only 1%, I think it's less than 1% that would be, outreached our following. Whereas if you organically pump stuff out onto YouTube in the last year, you'll find that 66% outreached the following that we have on YouTube. That's significant if you're aiming to find new people. Yeah. Okay. Let's have a look then. Inside of socials, you have a breakdown of where they all came from. 2021 on the left, 2022. So Facebook still has the lion's share of the sessions that we have on the website, so they've come from here. So there were 5,648 last year that came from Meta, and then it was 4,903. So it's shrinking a little bit. It used to be 90%, now it's 80% coming from Meta. Now on that list, you might be saying, okay, well, what is this here, Naver? Naver is a South Korean search engine. And so, but it registered as a social media network for whatever reason. And that's significant, I think, because when you look at the grand scheme of thing, and here's a bonus consideration for you, when you look at this, and this is why I mentioned we're going to go back to organic search. Organic search represents 2/3 of the traffic that we would get on Deep Cove Kayak's website. And that Naver was just one South Korean random, not even that big search engine inside that happened to sneak inside of the social platform, inside of the data there. But that already was more effective. That Naver thing was more effective than all of our Instagram efforts in 2021. And so, going back to it then, if you think, okay, well, we should be putting all our eggs in one basket, and you have Sergey Brin and Larry Page, and that's Google. So, 2/3 that we can thank them for when it comes to people straight up finding us and buying our products. And then, so I mention this because that's the highest hitting search engine, and then the second biggest search engine is YouTube. So if we're trying to put all our eggs in the most effective basket, I would probably say that you should be looking at those two things moving forward. All right, next on the list. I know we're going in random orders. We were just talking about organic search there, and just before that we were talking about social media. We're going to move into email now. So as we mentioned earlier, it was 498% better than 2021, which is great. But that's not the whole story. So I did this in the last video, but I just want to reiterate in this one on DCK's stats. So Meta then versus MailChimp would be 4,167 sessions within 1 year. So we've managed to glean that many people from that platform. And then MailChimp had 3,373. But keep in mind, though, with Meta, we did about 120 posts, 300 stories, and lots of ad reach. And then on the MailChimp side, we simply sent 41 emails. And that's the power. Remember, when we get people to landing pages, we've got them off the distracting platform that is social media, and we've got them closer to purchasing our products. So let's look at JVK now, and let's look at some insights from there. Okay, so in 2021, there were 62,541 users, and then in 2022, we saw 52,056. So in users then, that equates to a drop of about 16%. But we saw that there were more page sessions. So on average there was 3.94 page sessions in 21, and there was 4.83 in 2022. And also the bounce rate decreased. So the content on the website improved, and you had basically people less inclined to just shoot off straight away. Okay, let's look at acquisition real quick. So in 2021, you can see that there is a lot of paid search at the top. So I've arranged this by conversions. So e-commerce, one of the big things that Jericho has in comparison to, say, DCK or Kate's, is that we spent money on Google Tag Manager, which meant that we were able to see what conversions there were on Google Analytics. Now it only kicked in July of 2021, so that revenue figure is a bit broken for 2021. It's also not like gospel, but it's a good yardstick. So check it out then. We have paid searches number 1 in 2021, and I looked into referral. Much of referral is actually the same as DCK, where it's coming from Flybook, and so that drops down the list. So as it pertains to e-commerce then and conversion rate, email actually was the highest hitting platform for driving sales on the JBK website. So in referral then, it's not all that much important. Well, as I dug into it, it was mainly to do with Flybook, but that's down 22%, so don't worry about that anyway. But email was up 1,667%, which is just bonkers. And then we have organic search is basically the same. Direct was basically the same, and then socials was down 6.1%, and then paid search was down 98%. And you might be wondering, okay, well, hang on a second, we did pay for ads in 2022 for JBK. Well, we did, but they were social media ads. This does not track social media ads. The paid search that you see in 2021 relative to 2022 is Google ads. So that's why basically there was as marginal to no spend in Google ads for JBK. It was all predominantly on social media, which turned out to be very successful actually. Okay, so because referrals on the top, I'm just going to clear this one up for you, because you can see of the 6,379, Flybook is at the top there, and then the other one is Deep Cove Kayak. I suppose that is actually significant. The 1,500 has come from there, and a healthy portion from the sailing center. So that's good. Now, email. I have to say something special about email. We know that email is going to be bigger in the next season. We know that we already knew it was great going into this season and the seasons before. But just to give you an idea of effectiveness then. So on this timeline, Google Tag Manager comes in around here. So keep in mind, that's not Google ads. We were running Google ads throughout, but Google Tag Manager was when we were able to track conversions on the JBK website. So if you look at 2022 then, you'll see all these spikes where we've sent an email through MailChimp, and then a bunch of people have come through onto the website, and they've spent their money. Now, the thing that I have to give credit to JBK is there was a very concerted campaign where they had segmented or hyper-segmented their email list and then went after them. And so you'll see, for example, like an early bird camp bookings where they had gone out and, for example, hit them up with an email on January 23rd, followed up on January the 27th, and then there was also another one on the 31st of January. And then you can see on the left-hand side, the right-hand side, then what it equates to some of the amount of money that was earned with those emails. And then here's another example in February where it was like multiple touch pieces. Now, one other thing, this is a really effective way to market a product. Remember, we want to own the lists, and we want to have people's emails and contacts so that we can beat the algorithms, for example, on social media, or we can beat the algorithms set by Google. And this, I just have to do a segue here from JBK to do a reference point on season passes. So, but let me first say, with regards to email marketing, great job, JBK team. Like that was so smooth that you had set them up, pestered those groups, and you'd gone after individual products like that. It takes a lot of time, and you put the resources in place there to do that. Okay, so one of the things that I have to talk about here is this is such a powerful marketing technique, is the season passes. I looked at this figure. This is for DCK here. Now there was a drop in it, and when I took some orders on this one, and that was that season passes. To quote Bob, it was that there's no point doing any season pass sales in this because, season passes, quote unquote, sell themselves. Now, obviously, I can't say that the email marketing is the only thing that contributed to a drop between the 3-year average, but let's pretend that it was. I would hazard a guess that you could patch some of the discrepancy between the 3-year average and what we had with that nudging email piece. Because I remember when we set up the season passes in previous years, we'd put more time and resources into it, and the emails was the predominant way that we nudged people along. So if you look at that figure then, and the difference between the two is like 14,800. So I'm not saying that that's the philosophy of like they will sell themselves. How much did you lose out on? And say, well, because we didn't do any effort on that front, then we lost out on 14,800. Because if you think about the fact that DCK crossed the 3 million mark, you might say, well, hey, it ain't broken, don't fix it. There's no need to worry about that technique because clearly we chose the right one. And you've got to bounce these things around. So let's go through. I just have to run some of this theory through because it might inform whether we spend more time and resources actually doing the season pass marketing or hound people in with the email marketing for the season passes. Now, that figure, that 3 million, that juicy figure there, I don't have any data to suggest this because I haven't researched it, and I almost feel like I don't need to. But the magic formula, it seems, is this thing. If you have a lot of that sunshine, then typically you have a lot of rentals. Then we had like a huge stint of sun, and therefore people wanted to be by the ocean and out on kayaks. So why is this significant? Why am I bringing this up? So this is why. The only pass that has a problem with us is the ultimate pass, it seems. All the other passes are designed in a way where we say, hey, we're busy making a lot of money at Deep Cove Kayak. You need to get lost and go over to Kate's Park and just play over there for a little bit. We're making money. And so of the ultimate pass holders, they're the ones that can turn up on a Saturday when school's out on a baking hot day. They get to flash their pass and say, I would like to come kayaking today. So these are the ones that we have a problem with, and this is something I have to talk about. So if they've spent $800 on a pass, that's great. And there's a total number of 16 ultimate pass holders that we are worried about that are going to take a lot of money off of us. You have to also know this, right? The problem with these pass holders, it exists when in one season they paddle over 17 times or so. Like on the 18th time that they arrive, they become an issue, and that equates to exactly 18 is the length of the season. So they would have to come more than once a week, and they would. But the thing is, they would have to come on when we have 100% sellout day, because if we haven't sold the entire rental fleet out, and there happens to be a spare casting lying somewhere, the only thing that you're doing is you're putting someone else's ass on a piece of plastic and you're sending them out there. The whole operation was going to run regardless. So you need to sell. So for these 16 people to terrorize our profits, we have to have 100% sellout day all the time, and they've got to be keen beavers and they've got to turn up. Over set like on the 18th time, that's at the point where they cross that $800 mark, and then they start harming the profits of the company. But they can only do so on that 100% sellout day. So, and again, like sometimes you can imagine, do all 16 of them arrive on the same day? Like how much of it takes a hit there? But the key things is they've got to cross that mark, and they, in combination with that, they have to want to book their kayaks on a sellout day. So, okay, if we're like, twice per week, this is just terrible that we've got these pass holders that want to turn up twice per week. Like, what damage are they doing? Okay, so if you take the 2-hour sessions, for example, that they take up in the time that they take up, and you bring them on all the 18 weeks of brilliant sunshine that we got, then you could say that's cost the company $25,920 that we could have had in our own bank. And then you have to cast your mind back to the start of the season, like, hang on, they did actually pay us $12,800. So in reality, those pesky ultimate pass holders would have cost us $13,120 over 18 weeks. Okay, so moving on. Now, if you take that 13,120 that we are in the hole from, you should cast your mind back to the philosophy of, should we have focused on selling more season passes? And if you had done that, or if we had done that, the extra $14,800 would have covered those pesky ultimate pass holders that turn up on that day, and you'd be making a profit of $1,680 that you wouldn't originally have had at the end of the season. It doesn't sound like much, but when you look at this, if you focus the marketing efforts on the stuff like the Super Pass, for example, or Kate's Park or whatever, in the resources where they can't even take out, paying customers in rentals, that equation starts to get really interesting. But there's one last thing that you should really consider, and that's the boogeyman in this whole thing, is that it might rain. Like if you have a season where it wipes out multiple weekends, then you not only have you lost, let's say you have Saturday and Sunday that's wiped out and you have 25k each day and you're 50k in the hole, like we would have had 50k in the bank, then these pass holders, and I am only talking about the philosophy of should we put a little bit of effort or more effort in the marketing, email marketing for season pass holders, then it equates to an extra 600 every time that you basically have a washout day. Over a weekend, that's 1,200. So that's in effect saying that if you'd bothered to do the marketing to pull those numbers up on the season passes, and a bit of rain hits, at least each day you can go to the bank and say, hey, it rained. Can you just pass me $600 so I can feel better about this? And if it rained the following day, then you get to say, oh, look, it's terrible. We haven't got all that 25k on a good day. Can you at least give us another $600 on the weekend, or 1,200 in the weekend? food for thought there. The power of email marketing and whether you should spend time in certain areas. That's like a case study on that front. Okay, let's roll into JBK ad insights now. I think there's some cool things we've learned and some things that we can do moving forward. Okay, so we have ad spend. Now, let's compare 2021's ad spend to 2022's. So you can see 10,900 odd and 6,800 odd is the two values that we have in each season. Now, if you look at this, you'll see the spread at which that money was spent. So on the left-hand side, you have 2021. You can see that that's a Google logo that I've thrown in there, and then that's a Meta logo that I've thrown in there. So you can see approximately the split being about 50-50 in 2021, Google Ads and Meta. And on the right-hand side, you can see that we have Meta predominantly being used as the ad of choice, ad platform of choice. And then there is a marginal Google Ads thing, but it's so low, it's almost zero. So for the sake of purpose of this presentation, we're going to call it zero. Okay, now I need to say this about the 2021 Google Ads. If you look on the right hand side, you'll see revenue and you'll say, okay, well, hang on a second, there's 33,390 there in revenue from a Vancouver Kayak and Surf Ski Google ad, and you might be thinking, okay, well, you only spent $810 on that, and you should definitely spend more of that money, because if that 810 makes 33,390 or whatever, then turn the volume up. Okay, so the problem with this one here, and the reason that I turned the Google Ads off for JBK in 2022 is what I noticed that this specific one that I'm talking about now included the word Jericho Beach in it. So people would put in like Jericho Beach kayak, not just Jericho Beach on itself, but if Jericho Beach kayak, I should have put that in the note there. Now, why is that significant? Well, what usually happens, so say if you're on Solomon, you're on Google and you type in Solomon like I have here, the annoying thing Google does sometimes is you know exactly that you want to go to the Solomon website. That's hence why you've put in the word Solomon. And then Google are quite happy to take your money and put an ad here at the top, whilst also leaving you organically the first listing on the platform. Like that annoys me somewhat. And you know, like you can type in Jericho Beach kayak, or you can type in Deep Cove kayak or Coast Outdoors sometimes, and people will click on this, and we pay for people to click on it. It's not that much, but it still happens. But it still irked me that that was the scenario. So going back to you know, when the ad was running, so this is not the ad, this is the organic one you can see here where Jericho is. This ad here represented people already knew that Jericho exists, or Jericho was a place to kayak, and therefore you can sort of rule this out of the 2021 statistics. But you can put in this one here. Now this one is like kayak in Vancouver. So when you run an ad like this, you know that somebody is in Vancouver and they're interested in kayaking. Now you will also notice, so compared to this one here, if you look at CPC, that column there, that's cost per click, it is 8 cents for that, and then it was $1.10. And you might be thinking, wow, that's like 10 times more, you know, expensive to get people to click on this website compared to what it was in the other ad. And kayak in Vancouver is we're not the only person that would put ads in for that type of thing. Like as you're probably aware, our friends at, you know, Vancouver Water Adventures are quite partial to paying money for kayak in Vancouver. So the way that Google Ads works is that you are literally in competition with you know, websites like this or businesses like this, and we compete for like a price. It's like you're bidding, you're You're trying to outbid each other in a literal sense for kayak in Vancouver. Hence why they charge more money for it. But the best thing about those adverts is they didn't know that Vancouver Water Adventures existed, and they didn't know that Jericho Beach Kayak existed. They just knew that they wanted to kayak in Vancouver. Anyway, hope that makes sense. Okay, I now want to look at a case study on Google Ads because I think it informs whether we should be using Google Ads, and it's food for thought as to how much money we should be spending on Google Ads and whether we should be turning the volume up or down. Here we go. So remember, I picked the LP logical position rentals, the search rentals there, as a good ad, and we did end up spending more money. Now, please, in this next example, I have picked arbitrary numbers to put in for hourly rate, and I've picked an arbitrary number of people that might run Jericho Beach Kayak in this. My goal here is to show you one way to do the formula, and then it would be up to you then to say EJ, for example, or perhaps whatever waterfront location, whatever, to input your own values into this. Keep in mind now, I'm also doing just rentals. I'm not focusing on like school or anything like that, and I think that's important to do. Here we go. So in this ad then, you'll see this number 67. 67 means the number of transactions that happened. So 67 times someone was like, I have my credit card out and I'm purchasing something online. And we know that in this case, you can equate $6,192.99 to those 67 transactions. Okay, now we paid $3,437.65 to run these ads. So let's put a scenario in, and again, please do your own equation on this, depending on what you think the overheads are. So according to this, you've made a profit of $2,756. So in theory, you'd be like, cool, spend more money on the Google Ads, make more profit. Obviously, it's not like that because you have operating costs, you have staff to pay, you have to pay the rental of the location itself. But if we take this 67 people, and then we have 67 groups altogether, I'm going to just say that it takes 3 staff. Now, it could take 6 staff, it could take 9 staff or whatever. You might have more staff on at one time, but as it equates to getting someone in onto the ocean, I'm going to guess that somebody needs to do the boat talk and throw them out on the ocean, and then you're going to have someone on the phones, for example, and then perhaps you need someone in reception. This is a scaled down version. You might say that this looks a little bit more like Kate's, but let's play the Kate's Park scenario in this, okay? So to do this then, I'm going to say that it takes 15 minutes. And I know that sounds like not enough time, but let's say it takes 5 minutes to get them checked in or whatever. It takes 5 minutes to do the boat talk, and then 5 minutes to faff around. So if you take 67 groups then and you multiply that by 15 minutes, you'll know how much time it takes us to process this so we can get that profit. And then that equates to 1,005 minutes, which doesn't sound very useful, so I switched it over, and it's just shy of 17 hours. So it would take us 17 hours of people to pull this off. So again, I'm going to pick an arbitrary number, whatever the beach crew's getting paid, whatever Flex is getting paid, whatever, if somebody's there, and there may be operations manager, whatever. Arbitrary figure. Please go with me. Let's call it 18 for now, and then you have 3 staff. So like you multiply that 18 by 3, and then you get 54. Okay, so what do we have to do here now? We have to multiply 17 hours by 54. That's like how much it cost us to pull off these 67 groups. So let's look at that then. So 54 times by 17 equals 918 that we're in the hole for. And so you got to look at the profit that you made, which is 2,756, and then you have to take that and minus that because you had to pay that just to get this thing going. And again, I don't know what the sailing center costs us. I don't know what the fees are for having a search boat out there. I'm just throwing this equation out as food for thought, because my goal is to get you to maybe come back to me and say, well, hey, you were a bit off. This is how much it actually cost. And this changes the formula, and maybe we should or shouldn't spend more money on the Google ads. But anyway, if you did that, you had 1,838 in profit. Okay, so that's guessing. And then the reason we would do that is, remember, the Google ads are set up in a way where we take people away from Vancouver water adventures because they've searched for kayak in Vancouver, so they're a new customer, and then they come in through this system. So we wouldn't have had these customers to begin with. It's very different if we do this equation and we run it on the first Google ad that I said that included Jericho Beach Kayak, because we would have had those customers anyway. So this is strictly new customers that you're spending this money on. So if you take 1,838 and you're very smiling, in theory, what you can do is take the number that you spent here, and if you doubled the number that you spent on the ads, theoretically you could double the number of profit that you make in rentals after those overheads, and you could essentially turn the volume up again. Maybe you do it again, and there's a ceiling that you get, and we don't know where the ceiling is because we haven't tried it. And so I've presented you that formula as food for thought, and please get back to me, EJ, and tell me if this needs changing completely, if we're wildly off, and if it works. In theory, you can make profit this way by pulling customers away from Vancouver water adventures. All right, I hope you have the coffee at the ready, because we got a few more database things to look at. So I have eliminated some of the Google ads from 2021, some of the ones that I thought were pointless. Okay, let's take a look at total clicks, because you can see now that it's 2021 on the left-hand side and 2022 on the right-hand side. You might be wondering, okay, well, there's a big difference. Is it just how much was paid? No, remember, we had Google ads and Meta ads. So on the left, we have 11,933 clicks, and then 6,100 of them was on Meta, and then we had 5,833 from Google. On the right hand side, we have 5,370 from Meta. Let's look how much we paid individually for them. Google, we spent an extra 5,886 on that, and then Meta 5,100. In 2022, it was 6,887. So if you compare just the Meta, you'll see that it's just marginally more expensive. So you got 6,887 on the right, then you have 5,100 on the left. But if you look at the blue pieces at the bottom, you'll see that Meta did better in 2021 than it did in 2022. So bigger bang for your buck. Okay, cool. Moving on. Now, let's forget all of 2021 and focus just here, just to see what happened with that 6,000 odd that we spent on Meta. Let's have a look at how it breaks down. So I did say just shy of 6K there, but I've realized it should be just shy of 7K. So apologies, but the graph on the left will be accurate. So you can see there's evening tours, VHF courses, online trips, kids camps, PCL2, GCs, and a last week of rental spurt that we did. So in total then, we reached 355,900 people. And there was a total number of 5,389 clicks. I've put this in asterisks because some of the courses or some of the ads that we ran, we were not trying to get clicks. So I spoke to a Facebook marketing expert, and then they said sometimes you get bigger bang for your buck if you pay for reach or if you pay for impressions or whatever. So in some scenarios, this will look strange because we've paid for something different. And because I say that, the VHF course had 4,534. And you might be looking at that, like, wow, that's like almost 75% of the total number of clicks. What happened with all the rest of it? Like I said, we spent that money in some cases on reach more than we did clicks. So let's look then at reach. So on the left-hand side, you'll see how much we spent. And then on the right-hand side, you can see how many people that our ads reached. And the only thing that strikes me as interesting, and it's obvious why, is that if you look at kids camps, on the left hand side we spent the most amount of money on kids camps. That's 2,743. On the right hand side you'll see that it reached less people than the VHF courses did. Here's why. If you cast your mind back to the start of the presentation, you'll remember that we were competing for kayak in Vancouver. Similarly, on Meta, we are also competing against other businesses that are trying to put camps products onto that platform. What that means is you have to spend more money to reach X amount of people. That's the discrepancy in there. Okay, but other than that, the VHF courses were very good in general, right? So and you'll also see as well, it's like marginal. Like when you only chuck, $200 at something in PCL, you're only gonna get like 15,000 people or so. Like looking at it, it's obviously a lot more than our following, but as you can imagine, the more money you spend, the more people will look at it. Okay, great. And so you might be thinking at this point, well, how much should we spend on advertising? And to answer that question, in the past, I've run ads, or we've run ads where we take, if a course costs $100, for example, and we have 6 people that can go on the course, then we take the price of one seat, i.e. 100, to try to sell the rest of the course out. So we sacrifice one seat to get there. And I've had conversations with, say, for example, Mike or both Mikes in the waterfront location. And this formula, I think, needs changing somewhat. And here's why. So if you remember, we have a funnel. The idea in an ad is that you bring people in and you acquire new customers and you make them aware of it. So you pay to turn up randomly on a random person's feed so that you can move them through, the funnel, and you can show them your products, and then you can have them, in the system. Now, if something like Intro to Kayaking for Jericho Beach Kayak costs $89, you might say, okay, well, let's spend $500 to try get people aware, and let's acquire some customers to get them paying for Intro to Kayaking. Now you might be thinking, okay, well, $89 multiplied by, let's say it's 1 to 4, instructor, 4 people on the course. So you've sold out like 4 of them, and then that gives you 356. So you're like, shit, we're in a hole. If we run that course and $500 is spent, damn, we're just in the hole. So you're 144 in the hole, to be accurate. But I want to make this point because we have to switch something up here, and I think this is what it is. So if you look at that 144 that we acquired to put people into this funnel, the bit that we have to consider is it's not just one ad spend for one product, because as we move them through the funnel and they consider other things, and eventually when they read an email from MailChimp, we've moved them on to the next course, which is beginner kayaking. So that's $349. MailChimp is a locked expense that we all share as a company, and I mentioned earlier it's about $479 per month, but that's split between Coast, DCK, Kate, whatever. Like everyone gets to share that, and you can pump as many of them out as you want. Okay, so let's look at this $500 then. Okay, we just cut the check for $500 on the ad spend, but that $500 is actually approximately 50,000 people that you've put into this funnel. When you look at it that way, what you need to do then is look at all the products that we have, and then recognize that if we've spent and made a loss on a product which is very enticing and a lot of people fit the bill for Intro to Kayaking, the goal then is to keep those people and move them through to intermediate kayaking via that MailChimp thing. So rather than, for example, trying to sell level 2 kayaking straight off the bat, or surf skiing or anything like that, they're all like these intermediate niche ones. What we need to be doing is finding out exactly what people want to do, spending money at a loss on those things to then move them through to the higher level courses. And then you also do that by creating landing pages and offers, so if you've done intro to kayaking, then you might get $50 off to do intermediate kayaking or whatever, and then you might get some sort of like time-based window as to when you can sign up to the rest of them. On top of that, you'd want to have your instructors, which I know they do, tending towards pushing people through to the next step. And I know that happens anyway, but I guess I'll just mention it here, just in case we weren't on the same page. So I would like for us to swing away from we spent ad spend and this is how many people we had on the radio course, to how did we link everyone through from that point after we acquired them so that they consider other courses, and then we convert them, more and more times. Like, our own customers are our best customers, remember, as we have as a motto here. So the goal then, I think, or something that we should be considering more often, is looking at our products and then painting a better customer journey. Like, okay, well, this person would probably go from here to here to here. And then you would generate what we need to pull that off is we need to create the organic content. We've got to be able to put something on social media or whatever. Perhaps we need to connect it to paid ads. We have email series with time-based offers, like nudging people through. You might need to show video examples, people really enjoying the product. And then those landing pages / copy. So you would build individual emails pulling people from specific products to other specific products, etc., etc. And if I was to split this whole thing up, then I would say you could probably give someone a part-time job just doing this alone, and then you definitely could at least do a part-time job for this bit here alone too. So keep in mind, if you look on the left-hand side, the amount of products, they all need their individual things. They all need their email sculpting. They all need the time-based things, so that on November 31st is the last date that you can sign up to this blah blah blah, blah, and it's $50. Like, there is a lot of work that needs to be done, and this is just Jericho. So I want to try to give you a context as to why I'm making a point here for the resource and time in this area. Okay, moving on. I want to make one final point here, because I get given the reins to test this stuff, and I don't often get the chance to prove why we do it. So in 2021, we ran a Google plus Meta ad, if you remember those graphs at the beginning, and then 2022, we had Meta alone. So when we did both of them on the left-hand side, it cost us 74 cents for a click, and then when we did it in 22 with just Meta, it was $1.20. One of the reasons this happens, according to the theory, is that if you have multi-touch platforms, so people see stuff on Facebook, and then they're on Google and they happen to see it on Google, it warms them up to a point where they're more likely to click the ad that you're running. Whereas if you're just doing it on Meta, it requires Meta to do more work to show these ads to multiple people again and again. It's almost like you're paying more to Meta to be omnipresent, rather than splitting your best bets and being omnipresent by using multiple platforms. So to summarize with the takeaways then for this ad spend insights for Jericho, Google and Meta is best. You should be running both. They help each other. They coincide with one another. Continuous ads work best. So I will give you an example now. Right, and apologies for this crappy ass resolution. EJ VHF courses from this point that you see highlighted had a specific ad spend on them. Let me go back. The difference, and if you look at that, it's 26, 19, 22, 26, 22. And then in the latter part, you had 16, 16, 14, 7, 19. So one theory might be, people want to train up so that, when summer hits, they already know how to use their radios. But the big difference between those ones specifically that were highlighted is that we had ads that were running continuously. So there was a daily ad spend. The difference in advertising strategy for the latter part was that, when you see 16, 16, 14 sales, so we would just, you would talk to me and say, hey, we don't have that many signups. What's the ads doing? Can we put in another batch here? So we would do a 3-week batch. What I'm saying is, if you run ads on a daily basis and perhaps you spend less money, but you keep them going over a longer space of time, you get that constant reminder that someone should look at a course, and before you know it, they're on the website and they're purchasing our products. So a bit of a case study. And again, I'm not saying that the difference between that highlighted piece and the bottom is simply the ads. Obviously, the amount of groups that you share things to helps, and EJ does a lot of work there on that front too. So there are many variables. I'm just talking about one difference in ads specifically to those highlighted ones, which was clear on that front. Okay, so another takeaway for Jericho and all the companies is you got to do it in combination. You got to run this ad stuff with an email strategy. It's definitely worth it because it covers the cost that you spend on the ads in the first place. Okay, one more case study. Please hold in with me. I appreciate you. Thanks for being here. Let's paint a picture where we have to sell what we're going to call a golden rod. Now, this could be a pair of skis. It could be a PCL 2 course, something fancy, whatever. Now, to sell a golden rod, what you would need is a fisherman. Let's call this fisherman Fred. When Fred is finished fishing for the entire day, he likes to squander his time at home on social media. And thanks to this guy, instead of Fred just being Fred, he's actually a product called Fisherman. So going back to our golden rod, strange name, very niche, we get to pick the category Fisherman and force our product onto that feed. So every 5 or so times that Fred flicks past one of his friends fishing or whatever, he gets to see this golden rod term. Now, with that golden rod term firmly stuck in Fred's mind, he then turns to Google. And instead of searching for fishing rod, which, as you can imagine, has a ton of other companies that are bidding for that term, we know Fred's going to search for golden rod. And before you know it, we've rised above the noise and we are in front of Fred's eyeballs again. Except this time he's off of the distracting social media and he has his credit card in front of him and he's ready to buy the golden rod. Great. Fred has bought a golden rod from us. Very fun. So Fred's been out all day and he's been using his golden rod and he's very happy. But at the end of the day, Fred has to return home and before you know it, he's bored again and he's got his phone back out. Okay, cool. Why does he do this? Fred uses his phone essentially to be entertained, perhaps educated. Perhaps he just wants to laugh at some silly ass reel. Maybe he just wants some escapism. Or perhaps he just wants to be informed on some epic fishing trips he could be doing in the future. Now, all this stuff on the right-hand side can just come from a number of different people and a batch of noise. So that's what happens on TikTok predominantly, where they ignore the fact that it's your friends. It's just more like, what was the biggest hitting, laughing content? And let's just show people that. So they go through that, and it's maximizing viewer attention, and that's the difference. One of the main differences between TikTok and say Facebook and Instagram. Although Facebook and Instagram are basically gearing themselves more towards that, where when you go on those platforms, you're more likely to get random crap on there more than you are your friends' crap. So the equation is changing somewhat. But how do you counter this? Well, you counter this by creating a brand. And a brand might use one of these cool things on the right hand side. Let's say, for example, that you take education. To do education and to create educating content, you have to create a team that generates it. You have to spend the time and resources creating that stuff. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're directly selling a golden rod or a surf ski or a pair of skis to Fred. You either do it that way, where you have a team generating, say, something valuable like that, or you pay the tellers to get in front of Fred's attention. Now, the main benefit that you would create this, and you would actually have more people creating content that's valuable to people so that it's 100% organic that's going on to Fred's feed. By doing that, instead of doing a CTA, a call to action, and be like, buy this product, sign up for this thing, pay us money. By doing that, you build trust. Trust us that we are giving you something very valuable. We're paying our staff to create these bits of art or this comedy or this like very, intellectually stimulating, whatever it is. Just trust us. We have value that we are giving you. Because we've given value, Fred becomes part of a following. That following could end up in a Facebook group, it could end up on a forum, it could end up in a club. But either way, when you've got that following because you've traded it for value, and keep in mind that if you create more valuable content, you change the equation on social media so that more people see it, you're that much closer to contact info, which means you're that much obviously closer to emails. Emails means landing pages, and if you watch the previous video, that's where the rubber hits the road and somebody gets their credit card out and pays for something. This is very time consuming, hence why I'm saying we would need to sculpt a brand or create a brand and have a team to create, because there's a lot more content when you do this, to create organic content to hit Fred's phone, and then we would also pay for that content to arrive on Fred's phone too. So yes, we do need a media team. Yes, we do need to spend more time email marketing, in case you were wondering. Okay, so I haven't answered the question, how much should you spend on ads? So obviously we've defined that we need a team to pull it off, but we should also spend some money doing it. Well, here's something to consider. If you're less than 2 million in annual sales, maybe you're doing stuff on your website, so that's Google, and then online marketing could be like something like social media. So you have 33,000, it's like 34,000 if you're under 2 million. Between 2 and 10, you have 76. But you can take those figures, whatever. But the reality is, what we need is goals. Where is the customer going to go? What products do we want them to buy? When are they going to buy it? Which is going to be the first one they buy, and then what will be the second one? You have to put a team together to create all that content so that we are going digitally fishing for these people to pull them onto those products. At which point, once you've defined the customer journey, you have to define lead measures, and then you need to define lag measures, and after that you review and adjust often. And at this point in the presentation, congratulations for getting here, but you might be confused. What is a lead measure? What is a lag measure? That's something that thankfully we have a team strategy meeting on, and I don't have to close that loop right now. At the team strategy meeting, we can define what lead measures are, we can define what lag measures are, we can define what our goals are and who's going to achieve it and what the best tasks are to do to achieve it. That's why we've gone through this video, so that we didn't have to discuss this when we were there. We can sort of look forward rather than backwards. So hey, thank you for joining.